Welcome to A Fine Time, The Nanny Revisited. This is a podcast about The Nanny, where we recap each episode and then discuss, sharing our own unique take on each episode. I'm Bernadette.
And I'm Debbie. Today we're talking about episode 107, A Decent Proposal. As usual, we'll start with a brief summary of the episode. On Cece's suggestion, Maxwell pursues the possibility of producing a one-man show featuring Chevy Chase. Much to Cece's chagrin, what she hoped would be a short, somewhat romantic trip with Maxwell to Atlantic City turns into a family affair with the children, Niles, and Fran tagging along. Chevy Chase is less than impressed with Maxwell, but he takes a liking to Fran, who seems to bring him luck at the casino. He invites Fran to spend the night with him in his hotel room for a big poker game in the hope that he will get lucky. Maxwell, lacking the key detail that Fran was invited to bring Chevy luck in the card game, becomes insanely jealous. And Fran encourages this jealousy, resulting in Maxwell bursting into the room and carrying her out, very 1950s like. Meanwhile, Niles' gambling addiction rears its ugly head, and Brighton loses his fake ID. Bernadette, do you want to add anything?
I don't believe so.
All right, would you like to take us to scene one?
Yes, so we start out in Maxwell's office. Maxwell's at his desk working. Niles is, dusting in the background. And Cece walks in and she announces that she's found the perfect subject for the one person play. And Niles, of course, she's back, your sex life.
Mm-hmm.
And Cece responds with, "Oh, I didn't recognize you. Wait, stand in Maxwell's shadow."
Uh-huh.
And Maxwell goes on to explain he's not very keen on the idea of a one person show. And Cece's like, "Why? It's cheap, it's easy." And of course, this is when Fran walks in, and Fran says, "And still, he won't ask me out on a second date."
Yep.
Um, Cece, though, persists. She's like, "Well, would you change your mind if the person is Chevy Chase?" And Fran interjects, "Oh, I love him. I've seen all his movies. Vacation, European Vacation, Vegas Vacation. He's very versatile."
Yeah. Right.
Um, and then Maxwell kind of reconsiders. He's like, "Oh yeah, he's very popular. All right, you can run with it." And Cece goes on to say, "Well, actually, he's playing in Atlantic City this weekend. I'll set up a meeting with us." And Fran once again interjects, "I love Atlantic City. Ma just gave me a coupon for complete prime rib dinner for 17 cents." And
Yup.
Max is like, 17 cents? And Fran's like, "Well, it comes with a fine I don't know how to say this,
Chablis.
Debbie. Chablis."
That's not
Um,
Yiddish for the record,
yeah,
just in case there was any confusion.
I didn't think so, but it's still a word I do not know. And Cece, though, who's not thrilled by that idea, is like, "Well, get a sizzling and, uh, whip out the board game because that's as close as you're getting to the boardwalk." And Maxwell actually steps in and is like, "What?" Cece's trying to say delicately, in a delicate way,
Yeah,
is that
right.
it's strictly business. And Fran's like, "Oh, fine. I have a date Saturday night. He's nice looking, no gray hair." So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Maxwell, you see the concern in his face. And he's just like, just realized, of course you need to come to Atlantic City to take care of the children." And Cece, I don't think I can, I don't know if I can replicate, but it's a very whining, like, child, like, "Maxwell,
That's
this is
very close.
my project. I am in charge, and there aren't gonna be any children, and there's certainly not gonna be any butler." And Maxwell's like, "Well, I want the children to come." And Cece's like, "Okay."
Fine.
Maxwell's like, "And I'll need a butler." Cece's like, "Fabulous." And Maxwell's like, "Good." So of course, this means that Miss Fine won't have to, she'll need to cancel that date. And she was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." She goes out to the hallway, Boop, 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 pretends to dial. Oh, yeah, George Clooney. Yeah, what I have to cancel Saturday
Saturday's
or
off.
Saturday's
Yeah.
off. Which, like, side note, I'm curious, I didn't look up 1990 whatever. Is this already 8?
I think this is 97.
When did George Clooney start to go gray, though?
Well, he doesn't have any gray. That's what Fran said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that I'm
Oh,
wondering when the actor like, I mean, George Clooney, the person, started getting gray because he is known later on,
oh,
having
okay.
that
So,
gray hair.
according to our friends at the wrap.com, um, um,
'Cause I think he was already probably showing a bit of gray.
yeah, so let's see. In 94, he didn't have any gray. Um, let's say this. 98. Okay, during his 5+ years on ER, Clooney let his hair go gray, and we were totally fine with that, according to the wrap.com.
Okay.
But
So,
then, but
yeah.
then later
So he's
on,
lying all around.
well, hey, this episode aired in 97. So
Okay.
in 90, well, actually, no, you're right. She is lying all around because in the picture from 94, it looks like he has some gray on the sides. So you're
Yeah,
right. She's just lying all around. Sorry,
yeah.
Fran.
Because she doesn't have a date with George Clooney, but if she did, he does have gray.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. She should have picked a different handsome celebrity to
yeah,
have her fictional date with. Um,
exactly. Um, so yeah, that's the opening scene. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
just because you made me think of it, I'll also point out that ER, I believe, aired on Thursdays, at least according to the snippet I'm seeing from our friends at Wikipedia.
Mhm.
So she wouldn't have even had a date with him then either. She should have, doubled down on her date with Sully from Dr. Quinn. That would
Okay.
have been better because he didn't have any gray hair.
Okay.
Sorry, total tangent. All right. Shall I take us to scene two?
Mhm.
So we're
Yes.
now we're now in Atlantic City and we're standing outside a resort and casino and we see all the flashing lights and Fran says, "Would you look at all this glitz? Stunning." And they go in to the lobby of the hotel and Maxwell is greeted by, I guess, the hotel clerk. "May I have your last name, sir?" And Fran's like, "Good luck. I've been waiting 5 years for it." Um, Obviously very different context. Um, Brighton is looking, everyone's kind of looking around at who's there, and Brighton watches shall we say, a stacked woman walk by with the comment, "Now that's a real woman." And
Mhm.
Fran's like, "Not the parts you're looking at, honey." Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, um, I don't think there's anything else worth commenting on in the scene.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes on to say, like, Fran makes a comment about how she needs to take care of the children, and the kids laugh at that comment.
Right.
And, you know, I think I can't recall specifically because it's a very quick scene. I'm trying to remember who's being
I
called
think
sourpuss.
oh yeah, that's worth noting. Niall says to Cece, "Why the sourpuss? You're in a hotel full of drunken men who've been up
Yep.
gambling for 72 hours. You could get lucky." And she's like,
Uh-huh.
"You think?"
Yeah, she kind of perks up a little bit.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. Sorry, you're right. That is worth commenting on. Um, would you like to take scene three?
Yeah. So we are catching the tail end of Chevy Chase's stand-up routine. He's making his final joke and kind of signs off. He knocks. Did you notice he knocks like the microphone over
Oh, I didn't.
at like the very end? Um, but anyway, and so it cuts to the table where Fran, Maxwell, and Cece are, and Fran, of course, is laughing and clapping and saying how hysterical. Um, and and I think it's Maxwell who's like, "Oh, it's a shame that Niles couldn't, you know,
No,
be here."
it's Fran who says that.
Oh, okay, because apparently he's up in his room because he felt like he had a temperature, and we cut briefly to Niles at playing a game. I believe blackjack. No, some other game, some other classic casino game, and
Is it
he's saying,
roulette?
"Oh, I'm hot." I'm hot, and he's like, 777, and of course the dealer says your number 17, and he's like, no. And then he's upset, so he starts saying that the game's rigged. So immediately the dealer says security, and then he's like, oh, just kidding, like he's trying to back up from that. So
Hmm.
it goes back to um Fran and at the table, and she's saying how she's had a crush on Chevy Chase since Saturday Night Live. And
Yep.
Maxwell's like, "Oh, well, weren't you too young?" And Fran's like, "Not if you consider 3 young." So, like, she did give a pause for that. At that time, a waiter comes over and tells Cece that the gentleman she's been sending drinks to all night says that he's had enough. And Cece's like, "I'll be the judge of that."
Hmm.
And at that point, Chevy Chase actually walks over. And Fran, in her usual style, immediately is saying, like, "Oh, Chevy, like, you're so incredible," and all this kind of stuff. And then Maxwell gets up to shake hands with Chevy Chase, and so he starts saying, "Oh, Chevy, like, nice to meet you," and Chevy Chase is like, "Mr. Chase is good," and
Hmm.
I think it's like Cece, "Oh, your humor, whatever," and Chevy Chase is like, "No, I'm serious." And Maxwell's like, "Well, she got to call you Chevy." And and he's like, "No, she called me Chevy, you're so incredible," which it happens to be my full name.
Right.
Um, but anyway, they say something, they talk about how they'll see him tomorrow. Um, and Cece makes some kind of like comment, buttering up to him. And he notes that by going, "Uh-oh, I think I felt someone's lips right here." And he points to his butt.
Hmm.
And then he's like, "Oh, something along good to meet you, Mitch," instead of
Hmm.
Maxwell. And that's their first encounter with him. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I do not.
Okay. Can you take us to the next scene?
Sure. So we're in the casino, and Brighton is walking past Fran, and she basically grabs him and is like, "B, have you seen Niles anywhere?" And he's like, "Nope." And he like tries to rush off, and Fran's like, "Well, wait a minute. Where are you off to?" He's like, to a show." She's like, "What kind of show?" He's like, "Oh, he's holding a flyer behind his back because he doesn't want her to see it." And he's like, "Oh, some craft show called String and Paste." And it's like, "String and Paste?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so she grabs the like flyer from him. "Let me see that. G strings and pasties." And he's like, "Oh, I thought that was a typo." Clearly he didn't.
Yeah.
Um, and Fran's like, "Okay, well, um how did you expect to even get into this show? What do you have, a fake ID?" And he's like, "Yeah, I went to the guy that took 10 years off your license. It cost me $15." And she's like, "I'm horrified. I paid 25." Excuse me. "Let me see yours." And so he takes it out of his wallet and hands it to her. And she's like, now I see why mine costs more. Mine's laminated. It doesn't tear. And she rips it up into little pieces, hands the
Mhm,
pieces back to him and says, "Go see Muppets on Ice. Bye." And so she turns around and she finds Niles, believe it or not.
mhm,
And he's sitting at a slot machine. And she's like, "Niles, have you been up gambling all night?" And he's like, "Oh, leave me alone. I want $100." "How much did you put in?" she asks. "$300," he responds. And she's like, "Niles, after all the money that you lost on the cruise, I can't believe you haven't learned your lesson. Give me your wallet." And at this point, he's standing and he's like, "No, I'm a mature, responsible adult." Guess what she does? She grabs his like bucket of coins and his wallet. And he's like, "That's not fair. The Wilsons let their butler gamble. You're such a meanie. I hate you." And she's
yeah,
like, "Well, now, Mr. Smartmouth, you can just march yourself upstairs and go to bed. Go on. You know you can't win at these things. Everything you make, you put right back in. What's the matter with you?" Um, and so then she sits down and she is holding his little cup of tokens. She swirls it around a little bit and decides to try it. And guess what? She wins. and she's very excited. And so, um, as she's
"Oh, no,
excited,
I won, I won!"
exactly, she's super excited. Niles, of course, hears this and sneaks back and takes his wallet out of her purse and sneaks off. Fran, meanwhile, trips a waitress and asks for an apricot sour and make it sweet.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Anything you want to
I
add?
have a question for you, Debbie.
Sure.
Throughout this episode, did you notice that Niles's accent wasn't quite as British?
I
It
did
seemed
not.
to me, at least,
He sounded
that
more
there are
whiny.
certain moments that it didn't sound as British.
Interesting. Well, as we've talked about before, Daniel Davis is not from Britain.
Yeah, yeah.
He's from down south somewhere, in the
Yeah.
United States. So, like, I think it's just because he's whining more. He's
Maybe.
like as a character, he's supposed to be like sleep deprived and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's an interesting observation. Next time I go back and rewatch this, I'll have to look for that.
Yeah. But yeah, so the next scene, we see we're out in the hallway outside of a door. Gracie is standing there. A hotel maid's going by, and Gracie tells the maid, my dad's in the shower, and I got locked out of the room. So like the hotel maid like goes ahead and opens the door for her, and then leaves. And then of course Fran comes around the corner. Good girl. And Gracie mentions that she also copped conditioner. She copped some conditioner and some mints.
Mm-hmm.
So Fran's like, the torch has been passed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then Fran sneaks in and we find out this is Niles' room. And Niles is asleep on top of the bed. And as Fran goes to kind of check, we learn that she's trying to find his wallet. He grabs her arm. And at first we were like, she and the audience are like, "Oh, like did he know like it was her?" No, he continues to say in his sleep, "Come on, three cherries, come to papa." And
Mm-hmm.
so Fran decides to go ding 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 to get him to let go, because then he of course is like happy, and he puts his hands out together to like gather the coins, and she goes around to the nightstand and gets some coins or something and starts kind of showering it on top of him, and he's like wee wee all still while asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then and Fran, of course, makes the observation, "Oh, yeah, no, you don't have a gambling problem." Um,
Exactly.
she starts to climb like over him to try to, again, look for his wallet on his person. And he turns over in a way that then flings her onto the ground.
Yep.
Um, and he is like now on his stomach. She like touches his butt. And in his sleep, he's like, And then she makes the observation, "Oh, so, like, you're someone who keeps the wallet in their front pocket." And so
Mm-hmm.
she, like, goes to try to get it, and he, in his sleep, says, I'm getting lucky."
Yeah,
Uh,
in a like
yeah.
kind of clearly sexual type way.
Yes. But Fran does manage to get the wallet, and so she does leave his room with the wallet. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay. Would you like to take us to the next scene?
Sure. So we're back in the casino, and Chevy Chase is sitting at blackjack, I think, a blackjack table.
Yeah.
And Fran greets him, "Hi, Chevy," and sits down. And the dealer says 21. And Fran's like, 29, but thank you.
Mhm.
The dealer's like, "Player wins." And Fran asks Chevy, "How's he doing?" And he's like, "A lot better now. Do you like to gamble?" And Fran's like, "Well, I'm betting everything I got on a guy that took 4 years to ask me on a first date. So I guess that would qualify me as and he cuts her off, sucker. She's like, "Yeah." We hear
Mhm.
from the dealer that the player has won again. And basically says thank you and says to Fran, you have a beautiful face. Have you ever thought about acting? And Fran's like, "Are you deaf?" And
Mhm.
then Chevy wins again. And he's like, "Well, hey, you're bringing me luck, Fran. You know, I'm having a big poker game in my room tonight. I sure could use you by my side." And Fran's like, "Wow. Chevy, I'm a nanny, so my first responsibility really is to find a sitter. And then Maxwell comes over and he starts to greet Chevy with hello, Mr. Chase, to
Mhm.
which Chevy responds, hi there, Billy. My friend's like,
Mhm.
Maxwell? And Maxwell's like, is this a good time to discuss the play? And Chevy's like, no. And Maxwell's like, well, how about this evening then? And Chevy's like, I'm afraid I'm spending the evening with your beautiful nanny. To which Fran says, maybe you'll even get lucky. And Chevy
Mhm.
responds, I'm counting on it. And Maxwell is horrified and jealous.
Yes, of course, right?
Exactly.
The
Do you want to?
implications.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to add anything?
I do not. So of course, given this news, the next thing we see, Niles is still sleeping on his bed, but Maxwell is now knocking on his door. Niles, wake up! Wake up, old man! We have to talk. Niles still continues to snore. So
Mm-hmm.
Maxwell changes tactics. Niles, Miss Babcock's moving in with us. And immediately, Niles opens the door and just goes, why? Maxwell walks in and he starts with Niles. Hypothetical question. Let's say someone's down in the casino and they ask a certain nanny to spend the night with them, and she says, oh, ho, ho, you could get lucky. What do you think
Mm-hmm.
that means? And Niles immediately goes, congratulations, sir. Finally, after 4 years. To tell you the truth, I was beginning to think you were a big weenie. And Max was like, not me, you idiot. Chevy Chase. And Naz is like, I presume I'm fired. Just go ahead and give me my severance pay, preferably in $5 chips. And Maxwell leaves
Mm-hmm.
out of sorts. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
So,
Okay. Will you take us to the next scene?
so I think we're in one of the Sheffield family's rooms, and Fran is
Yes.
opening a box, and she's like, "Look at this from Chevy Chase. It's that beautiful dress that I saw downstairs in the boutique that I wanted to wear tonight. But how did he know? Should we discuss what this dress looks like, by the way?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this dress is shimmery. It's an animal print. I'm really bad at which animal.
It was
I want to
kind
say,
of like a leopard or a cheetah.
yeah, I was gonna say leopard, and I was gonna ask you if you thought that's the right big cat. It's a big cat print. It's
Yes.
um like goldish tan with black, and it has spaghetti straps, scoop neck, floor length, shimmery fabric. Um,
Hmm.
and so Fran's like, "Oh, this is the beautiful dress that I saw downstairs in the boutique that I wanted to wear tonight." But how did he know? And Maggie's like, "Because you took him into the boutique and you said, 'This is the dress I want to wear tonight.'" And Fran's like, "But how did he pick up on the subtlety?" She then takes out the card with the that was included with the dress. Dear Fran, meet me in front of the Baccarat room at 11. Oh, he wants to buy me crystal. That's so sweet. And then she continues reading. Then up to my suite for the game. And like she, has one of those exaggerated facial expressions. And
Hmm.
then Niles barges in, right? And he's like, Miss Fine, give me back my wallet. My friend's like, no, you are a compulsive gambler and I will not be your enabler. And he's like, well, if you give it back, I'll tell you something about Mr. Sheffield that you really want to know. And he's like gesturing towards his left ring finger. Um, and Fran's like, all right, fair enough. Tell me what you got. I'll tell you where your wallet is. And so Niles spills the beans that Mr. Sheffield is insanely jealous that you were spending the night with Chevy Chase and thinks that you're going to end up in bed together. He's insanely jealous. And Fran's like, I bet I know where he got that idea. And Niles is just not interested. He's like, the wallet, baby, the wallet. And she's like, well, okay, I'll give you a hint. I gave it to someone that's really going to enjoy having this power over you. Niles jumps to what is clearly the obvious conclusion, Babcock. Um,
Hmm.
and
He
he like
immediately leaves.
he leaves, right? And so Fran is like, I sorry, not Fran. Maggie says to Fran that I can't believe that Dad is jealous of
Wh
you and Chevy
Well,
Chase.
who comes out of the side bathroom or something after Niles says Babcock and leaves?
Gracie?
Yes, and she comes out, and she's the one with the wallet,
Yes,
and
she is.
she's like, "Who's gonna be talking about" like, "The next time I want an extra Twinkie," or whatever, you know?
Yeah, something like next time someone asks for an extra Twinkie in their lunch, we'll see who gives me attitude.
Exactly.
Um, yeah. And so then Maggie, sorry, I'm skipping ahead because clearly I just want to talk about Maxwell's jealousy. Um,
Yes.
Maggie's like, Fran, I can't believe that dad is jealous of you and Chevy Chase. And Fran's like, well, honey, just don't make it worse by telling your father that Chevy got me this really expensive, sexy gown, and then I'm going to be in his room tonight at 11:15. And Maggie's like, I wasn't gonna. And Fran's like, yeah, you were. Like
Mhm.
indicating that yes, you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I don't.
All right, take us to the next scene.
Okay, so we are now in, the suite where Chevy Chase is having his, game, and there's kind of like a back kitchen, like, area that has a phone. And so Fran's actually on the phone with Gracie, explaining to her it's not really Diana Ross. He's in the show. And then again, we only hear Fran's side of the conversation, but oh, your father's upset. Oh, how awful. Like her
Mhm.
plan is working.
With a
And in
huge
fact,
grin on her
oh
face.
yeah, of course. It's all coming together. So we then kind of pan to outside of the room where Maxwell is in front of the door, and it's like the room's labeled the Maharaja suite, I think. And Niles is there, and Niles is still on his mission to try to find his wallet, or at least some money, because apparently Lucky Seven is playing $110,432.98. And of course,
Mhm.
with that particular knowledge, Maxwell's like, I'm beginning to think you have some type of gambling problem, old man or old boy.
Mhm.
And of course, Niles is like, oh, nonsense. A second later, damn, just lost the trifecta. And he has like a little earpiece, and which um, Maxwell takes from him. We then hear we got to Fran going, "Oh, Chevy. I can't.
Yep.
Why am I doing this? Chevy. I'm so hot." Some uh, and so she's adjusting the thermostat in the room,
Mhm.
right?
Yup.
And she continues to say, "You've got some great hand you got there, baby." And she kind of
Mhm.
like stumbles a little before saying "baby." And Chevy like reminds her, I didn't bring you to talk." And again, we go out to the hall because of course Maxwell's listening in and hears this. And he's saying something like he's not ready for the prime time players to take advantage. I didn't quite get that sentence, but basically Niles takes it like, I'll take that bet.
Yup.
What are the odds? And then we hear and of course, care for a little sweet stuff. And
Mhm.
of course, she's holding, like, I don't know, is it like some type of cake or dessert like thing?
Yeah, I
And
thought it was cake.
uh, yeah, and she puts it on the table. So Chevy says, "Oh, Fran, take take it off."
Mhm.
Um, and continues with, "Fran, we can't play until you take it off."
Mhm.
Yeah, and then Maxwell again, ear pressed to the door. She stopped talking. That's a bad sign. And
Mhm.
Niles is like, "Courage, sir. Perhaps she just discovered the mini fridge." And of course, then Chevy's like, "Fran, would you get me a Coke?" Fran's like, "Yes, yes, oh yes, Chevy." And this prompts Maxwell out in the hallway to take off his coat and say, "I've got to get in there. Here, hold this. Get back, get back." And he runs and he charges the door. And of course, he immediately goes, "Ow," because he's hurt
Yup.
his arm. And Niles goes, "I bet you I could do that." And Maxwell's just like, "Oh, sure, yeah. $50." And Niles is like, "Can you spot me the 50?" And so Maxwell actually does take out some bills. And then Niles proceeds to knock on the door, and we hear, "It's open," and so he opens the door. And
Mhm.
so Maxwell charges in. "All right, I've had it. She's leaving with me." And he picks her up
Yep.
like a fireman kind of style, where like a sack of potatoes over
Like,
the shoulder.
yes, he throws her over his shoulder, basically.
Yes. And Maxwell like is saying to Chevy, "What would you possess you to fold with three queens?" And Fran, who's over her shoulder, is like, "Mr. Sheffield, what are you doing?" And Maxwell's like, feeling like a huge ass. Nothing personal. Um, and then
There's his head is right near Bram's
yeah,
bottom.
yeah, yep. So Frando's just like, "Good night, Chevy," and he's like, "Good night, Fran." And they leave, and like Chevy Chase is not too startled by this turn of events. But once they're out in the hallway, Fran's like, "I can't believe you barged in there and carried me out. It's so 50s. Luckily, I'm an old-fashioned girl." And Max was like, "Oh, I just did that because I was concerned for your welfare." And Fran's
Mhm.
like, you know, um, "You thought you did it because you thought I was in the arms of another man and you got jealous. Why can't you just tell me?" And Maxwell, he like does kind of an exaggerated, I think, kind of like thing, like, "First you tell me why a gentleman in a sequin gown is singing Grace to sleep with Ain't No Mountain High Enough." And Fran's like,
Mhm.
"Damn." And she like walks away. Is there anything you'd like to add to that scene?
No.
Okay, would you like us to take us to Cece's room?
Yeah, so Niles bursts into Cece's room basically. "Give it to me, Babcock." And she's like, "Give what to you?" He's like, "Don't play coy. I'm getting what I came for. I'll tie you down if I have to." Cece's like, "Oh, Niles, you animal. I've never seen this side of you. What are you doing?" And he's like moved over to like the dresser and he like opened the dresser drawer. He's like, "What do you think I'm doing? I'm ransacking your drawers." And she's like, "Well, are you looking for something specific? I have peignoirs, teddies, a hand puppet." He's like, "I'm looking for my wallet." And so Cece's like pulled her hand up her sleeve to like mimic a puppet. "Oh, Niles, you don't have to pay me."
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to add?
Um, I don't believe so for that. I had like one little thing after that sentence, but I can't decipher it. So that's the gist of that scene.
All
Um,
right. You want to take us
so
home?
yes, so we close out by they're getting home, they're walking through the front door, and Maxwell says, "Oh, it's good to be home." And Niles turns to Brighton, "Told you he'd say that." And I guess they had bet on money. So, like, Brighton hands over whatever amount to him. And so Maggie says to Brighton, "You are such a worthless tool. It's like an embarrassment to have you as a relative." And she goes off, and Brighton turns to Niles, "You are amazing," verbatim, and hands him more money because apparently Niles bet on this as well. Um, so we kind of pan over to where Maxwell and Fran are now like in the like where the couch and the chair is in the
Mm-hmm.
living room. And again, like we learned that I guess Chevy like gave her like $100 in like chips or something.
Mm-hmm.
And at first she thought it was like Pringles. And Max was like, "Oh, I bet you're relieved to find it was money, not food." And she kind of turns to him like, You still don't know." Like, uh,
How well you know me? How long you
yeah,
know me? That's what she says.
yeah. Um, so oh, sorry, yeah. "How long have you known me?" And then Maxwell muses that he still doesn't know if Chevy's like doing the show. And Fran is like, "Oh no, like he and I kind of built a rapport, I can ask him." And Max was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, sure. I'll go call him and see if, I could set up a time." And so he goes out to the hallway and goes boop, 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 "Oh, Debbie," and again, it's his fake call. "You want to meet up with
Mhm.
Miss Fine?" "No." Shame.
Yup.
And that's the episode. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No.
Okay.
Th-
Any
I,
overarching things?
this to me seems like the most like sexualized episode that we've encountered. There's so
Yeah,
many things that like as children we would not have understood. Like we would have understood that there's something there, but we don't know what it is.
exactly. Yeah.
And so there's a lot in this episode. Do you think it went too far?
Um, well, like, so it's interesting to me because I feel like they could have used anybody in Chevy Chase's role.
Yeah.
Like it's not playing up to him in a sense. Does that make sense? Because he doesn't really have that much of a role aside from being the tool by which Fran makes Maxwell jealous.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. It's like on the one hand, I don't know.
I mean,
I
you're right.
think I
It could
think
have been
I think the
anyone.
most
It didn't.
awkward scene is like the sexual stuff with Fran and Niles.
Interesting. It is
Does that
awkward, but like not. I don't know. I guess I wouldn't have called that the most awkward. I think the most awkward one is when Brighton is trying to sneak into G strings and
Oh,
pasties.
no, no. Okay, yes. No, I agree with you there. Because Brighton's, like, from the very beginning has been super sexualized.
Correct.
Like, he's been portrayed as someone who's just, like, focused on that. So I agree, um, that, but at least, Fran put a stop to that and ripped up his ID.
Correct.
Um,
There goes $15.
yeah. Um, I don't know. What do you think?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess the saving grace of that is that Niles is asleep. So it's not even like it's intentional, like intentionally that he's like trying to hit on her or something.
Yeah, but it could also go the other way too.
You mean that
In
he's not
terms of
asleep?
like like him of like Fran, like she touches his butt when she doesn't need to. I mean, I guess she's
Oh,
checking for his
she is
wallet,
checking
but
for his wallet. You're right. She touches him inappropriately. But she didn't know. I mean, I think a majority of men keep their wallets in their back pockets, even though it makes them more likely to be pickpocketed, and also it's bad for their spine alignment.
mhm.
Um, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah. I mean, again, it could be a lot worse, but still it was just like as a child, again, like you were saying, we wouldn't necessarily pick up on all of the innuendo,
Hmm.
right? But it's still just like an odd pairing for that
It
to
is.
occur because again, they're friends. Um, and like Niles is a huge cheerleader for Fran and Maxwell getting together, as evidenced by congratulations, sir.
Yeah, but
Um,
then he had his gambling addiction is so significant that like he couldn't even be bothered to like finish having a conversation with Fran before he needed to know where his wallet was.
mhm. And part of that though is like there's no resolution to his gambling problem.
Right, it
It's
continues when they get
kind of
back to New
treated
York.
lightly in a sense. Because it's not like the Fran and Maxwell make comment that he has a problem, but there's no action after the fact to address it, right? In fact, the joke continues that he continues to make bets with Brighton as to what
Exactly.
family members are going to say coming home. So, like, again, we get a sense of how he does have a problem. He's addicted. He's like just so focused on that this entire episode, but there's no attempt to address that after they leave Atlantic City. Like, again, the most that was done was that Fran took his wallet and his chips at first. But that doesn't address the underlying issue, right?
Correct. No, you're right.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I said, no, you're right. I agree.
Hmm. So we can wait until future fun to see whether that ever rears up again. But like as to this particular episode, there's no kind of resolution to that thread.
No, but also, I mean, the last time his gambling came up, there wasn't any further resolution either. He
Hmm.
had Cece just enabling him by being his uh what how did he phrase it? 20 minutes with slot my baby by my side.
Hmm.
And like she agreed as long as he took Yetta as his roommate. So she
Hmm.
facilitated that.
Yeah, I will say the puppet aspect was a little unexpected, but I guess we have precedent within Niles and Cece for having a little bit of how do you say, unique interactions with that because of the clucking like a chicken
Everyone's
before.
favorite scene from
Hmm.
season 3.
Yeah. Um, but I personally was not expecting Cece to be like, "Oh, I have a puppet as well," and to have like a little unique voice to it.
I'm also part of me is also wondering what she would do with the puppet, but I also don't want to know.
Yeah. No, we don't have to go there.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's interesting as well because how old is Gracie at this point?
I was trying to figure that out. She must be like 11.
And so I also wonder, I mean, there's a running joke about Fran watching the kids anyway, but like her sister is in college, her brother is like in high school. Like the other kids could have just like been with her for like a little bit.
Correct.
And like I don't like she's old enough where I don't see someone singing her a lullaby or anything.
Right. She's
But
also old enough where arguably maybe she could have been left alone.
yeah, actually, yeah, because at that point, yeah, I would have been. And it's just a couple of hours. It's not like you're left home alone for a couple of days to fend for
Right.
yourself.
Right. And also she's in a hotel where like she's not cooking. She's not going to burn the house down.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, um, yeah, uh, I don't know if there's any other kind of broader thing you want to cover before we jump into the shticks, or are you ready to jump
I'm ready
into
to
them?
jump into the shticks.
Okay, so our first shtick is favorite fashion.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite or not so favorite piece of fashion in this episode?
Um, again, like I wouldn't say I hated it or anything, but it's just not my style. And that would be that dress that she got
Mhm.
from Chevy Chase.
Agreed.
It seems
Not
very
my
much her style, but like it's
yes.
definitely not my style.
Yes. Um, if it was a different pattern, it would be my style. Like I would
Hmm.
wear it. I don't do animal prints usually. Um,
Hmm.
and I like that we're back to her like big hair, like the traditional Fran Fine do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
of all of the outfits she's wearing, that one is actually my favorite. Um, because the other one, like while they're also in Atlantic City, she wears a different low cut uh dress that has like a tank sleeve and it's short and it's like multicolored. It's just not as nice as that one. And also, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Like earlier, excuse me, earlier in the episode, she's wearing like a long sleeve, you know, suit, like skirt suit, and then she jumps to like they go to Atlantic City, and I guess technically Atlantic City is south of Manhattan, but I don't think it's significantly south such that it would have a different climate.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, so my favorite outfit she wears is actually the dress that Chevy buys her. Yes, now I'm also doing it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Chevy Chase.
Because
If
it
you're a
spelled
listener,
like
please let us
Chevy,
know.
but it's Chevy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any other outfits or anything? Like, nothing else really stood out to me personally.
No, no.
Okay. So, shall we go to notable New Yorkers?
Yeah, they're a bunch. I
Yeah.
don't think there's
I'm
that many um
yeah. I
usual,
okay,
but
starting with the title though. A Decent Proposal. Did you think it was like a reference to anything specifically?
an indecent proposal, a 1993 drama.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense than where my brain went to. Do you
Um,
have any idea where my brain went to?
no.
Okay, have you ever heard of A Modest Proposal by Jonathan Swift?
Oh, but Jonathan Swift. That
Yes.
that makes yes, I have. I actually recommend it to people because it's amusing. Um, I did not but go there. I went to an indecent proposal, the
Which makes
1993
more sense. Yeah.
erotic drama based on the 1988 novel by Jack Engelhard. And it's about how a couple's marriage gets disrupted when a stranger's offer of $1 million for one night for the wife to spend the night with him. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. But yeah, my brain just went to immediately A Modest Proposal.
oh, that's
Which
funny.
which to our lovely listeners, if you haven't heard of it before, it's like a satirical essay by Jonathan Swift arguing for like eating babies, essentially. Um,
The new white meat.
yes. So again, makes no sense in the context of this episode. So anyway, and then of course we have Chevy Chase.
Correct. So, Chevy Chase, according, oh, I should also mention that in Indecent Proposal, the summary I paraphrased before is from our friends at wikipedia.org. Chevy Chase is an American actor, comedian, and writer who starred in Saturday Night Live's first season, as well as some of the most successful comedy films of the 1980s, also according to our friends at Wikipedia.
And Fran lists out a couple of those.
Yeah, so Vacation, European Vacation, and Vegas Vacation, they're all part of the same film series, if you will. Vacation is actually National Lampoon's Vacation, a 1993 road trip comedy that starred Chevy Chase, Christy Brinkley, and others that told the story of the fictional Griswold family on a trip to an amusement park. European Vacation was a 1985 comedy, also starring Chevy Chase and others, telling the story of the same family on an all expense paid trip to Europe. And then Vegas Vacation is a 1997 comedy, continuing the series about the Griswold family's trip, this time to Vegas. All of those are according to our friends at Wikipedia.
hmm Um, now, did you put down Atlantic City as a specific topic
I
or no?
did. It's a city in southern New Jersey that's known for its casinos, boardwalk, beaches, and other entertainment. And that's according to our friends at AtlanticCityNJ.com.
Did you put down the word that I could not pronounce?
I did not.
Okay, so we can move on. Did you put down sizzling?
I did because I didn't know what it was.
Okay.
And so I'm going to quote from our friends at historiesdumpster.blogspot.com. Sizzling was supposedly a lower calorie, less fattening bacon substitute product that was smoked and cured like bacon, but made from pork shoulder instead of pork belly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
moving on.
yeah. Um, George
Monopoly.
Clooney.
Oh, how about
Oh,
Monopoly?
yeah. Yeah,
Ah,
go ahead.
it's a board game in which players buy, trade, and develop properties while moving around the game board. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia. George Clooney,
Mm,
an American filmmaker and actor whose career started on the show ER. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia. I'll comment that he's known for being good looking.
mhm. Yeah. Um, now did you get into any of the, like, casino games or anything?
No,
With, like, the 777 and all
no,
that?
no.
Okay. I did yeah. I just checked, I mean, I just wanted to check with you before moving on.
Excellent.
Uh, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just said excellent.
Yeah. Um, there's that again, whenever a friend rips up Brighton's thing, she tells him to just go see Muppets on Ice.
Yeah, so I looked for Muppets on Ice and I couldn't find like a specific article with that title. I think it's a production, like a performance that involved the Muppets on ice skates. That's what it sounds like to me, but I could not find a specific source to back that up.
Okay. I skipped over. I don't think, but I didn't know if you checked about that whole G-strings and pasties.
I did not. That
Okay,
does
yeah,
not seem
I just assumed that was something that they were, doing for the show, or at least it would be self-explanatory.
right. I also didn't want that in my search history. So
Oh, fair,
Um,
fair.
I do think we skipped Saturday Night Live, also
Oh,
known
yeah,
as
yeah,
SNL.
sorry.
It's a late
Mhm,
night live sketch comedy show that was created by Lauren Michaels in 1975, and it continues to run to this day. And that's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
mhm, yep, um,
I
let's
tossed
see
an
here.
apricot sour because sometimes
Okay, you
we
did?
throw in fun food. It's a cocktail with apricot brandy, sour mix, and a maraschino cherry. And that's according to our friends at thespruceeats.com.
Okay. Do you have Diana Ross next?
An American actress and singer, best known as the lead singer of the Supremes. That's according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Um,
Ain't no mountain high enough.
yep.
Diana Ross's first solo number one hit from 1970, according to our friends at Wikipedia.
Mhm. I mean, I can hear it playing in my head.
I
It
can
was
too.
I mean, especially because whenever the movie Remember the Titans came out, that was, like, on the soundtrack, I think. Anyway, that was an aside. Um, did you have
I have
anything
one
else?
more. Pringles.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, go for it.
Potato crisps that are made from potatoes, oil, corn flour, cornstarch, rice flour, and other ingredients. That's according to our friends at Pringles.com.
Mhm. Then that's it, right?
That's all I had.
Okay, great. So we're ready then for Yanisha Cup?
The only thing I had, and please tell me if I missed something, is Sizzline with its bacon and other pork products. They're not kosher because pigs are not kosher. In order for a land animal to be kosher, meaning fit for consumption under the laws of kashrut, Jewish dietary laws, they must have split hooves and chew their cud. Again, pork is not kosher.
Mhm.
I will get off my
Yeah, so
soapbox.
when you were describing sizzling, I'm like, "Yep, that's gonna be in in that
Yup,
shtick."
yup,
Once again, not kosher.
bingo.
Yeah, I don't have anything else for that. So some 90s nostalgia.
Well, old cars.
Mhm.
Um,
Um, remind me, whenever the maid opened the door, was it a card key or was it a key?
it was a real key. Good eye.
Mhm. Because
That is
again, these
dated.
days they're all card keys.
Yeah, which is annoying because sometimes they don't work. Did you know that those card key readers have batteries that sometimes need to be changed?
Oh, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, you just wouldn't think about it until you're trying to get into a hotel room and it doesn't work because the key reader's battery died.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I think the use of Chevy Chase is sort of dated.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
And we don't need to necessarily get into it, but I know like lately there's more and more controversies with him as well. So like um but I guess like back then if the Vegas vacation had just come out, I guess that's maybe why they put him in a scene in Atlantic City.
I
Maybe?
think so.
Cuz did you say that the Vegas one came out in like 96 or 7?
I said one of yeah, Vegas Vacation came out in '97.
Okay, so that I guess now I see why, but as I mentioned before, it's not like they really utilize that. And then looking on his Wikipedia, like, it seems like he was married at the time. So,
Right. I
that
mean,
would be
even
awkward
on
if
the
they
show,
pursued that more.
even on the show, he references his wife Marv.
Yeah. And yet he's buying a gown and inviting, yeah, I don't, whatever. Um, I mean, again, the setting just seemed particularly dated, like the
Mhm.
hotel and all of that, because it's
Agreed.
supposed to be, I guess, certain aspects of it, like high end, but they all just it's very dated looking. Um,
Agreed.
Likewise, like I don't think Fran would be using like the hotel phone to talk with Gracie. Um,
No.
they'd be texting or whatever these
Right.
days. And to that extent too, like Niles would maybe have more options to try to get his money, like if he has his like a wallet on his phone or
Right.
something. I
I
don't
thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say he could feed his gambling addiction much more easily with a smartphone.
know. That's true as well because all the apps and the different things. Fran would have to confiscate his phone as well.
Correct.
Um, so to some extent, unfortunately, in a way, so there's like again that reference to the Diana Ross singer, and oh
Mhm.
yeah, he's just here in the hotel, and it's not really a big deal or anything. Whereas unfortunately these days, that's like become, at least in the U.S., a lot more um like they're being targeted,
Mhm.
for lack of a better term. There's more of an issue being made for people who dress in drag and all of
Mhm.
that.
Correct.
Whereas like in the episode, it's not, you're not really, they're not, it's not an issue, if that makes sense.
Right. It's just
It's
like who is a stranger who isn't
yes,
Fran caring for Gracie?
yes, but they're not saying anything that is wrong or bad or anything like that, right?
Mhm.
And so it's interesting to see how over 20 years ago it wasn't as much of an issue as it has been in the last, like, what,
Year.
year year or 2, where it's become, so it's kind of a shame that we've gotten to that point, right?
It is a
Um,
shame.
so again, just in today's political climate and everything, it's interesting to see, hey, back in the 90s, this was not as much of an issue as you're making it now, right?
Mhm. Right.
Did I explain that well enough?
I mean, as someone who knows what you're talking about, I understood what you were getting at.
Okay. Okay. So yeah,
So to summarize, it's notable that
yes.
a show from almost 30 years ago had no commentary on the fact that there was a Diana Ross impersonator. Um, Yet today, our state legislators seem very focused
Yes.
on the transgender community, unfortunately, and not
Yes.
in a good way.
And even like not necessarily fully, like not necessarily transgender either. It's just anybody who dresses in drag. Like, I mean, specifically like drag queens as
Mhm.
well. I mean, it's both. It's both and. It's both the transgender community and like the drag community.
Right.
So I don't know. Uh
We're regressing.
I'll get off my soapbox a little bit, but I thought that was notable to see the and again, we've had a couple of times in previous episodes and seasons where uh it's the other way around and they're
Correct. I'm
not.
thinking of the episode I've Got a Secret where,
Yeah,
to use Maxwell's phrasing, an emergency transvestite, which
yeah,
I do not approve of, but that illustrates the point you're making.
yeah. So it's interesting that in this episode, because at first I was worried they were going to try to make some type of like bad joke, like out of it at the expense.
Hmm.
But they didn't. It was just kind of something that was there.
Right.
So anyway, did you have any other kind of 90s nostalgia?
I'm good.
Okay. So unfortunately we can't add to the kiss count. Uh,
Correct.
I think we're gonna skip ahead then to future fun.
Sure. To start with the gambling problem, I don't believe Niall's gambling problem is addressed in any later episode, so it just disappears, hopefully. Um, there's that. Um, in just a few weeks, Fran and Maxwell seem like they are ready to, shall we say, physically consummate their relationship on their second date. And it is as disastrous, if not more disastrous, than their first date due to pumpkin tortellini. And for
Hmm.
those who have seen the series before, you know exactly what I'm referring to. The episode's title is A Rash to Judgment. Um, at the end of the season, towards the end of the season, not later in the season, I'll say, um, Gracie and Fran actually do some traveling on their own. They go together to Khorasan because her classmate is actually a prince from that country. And Fran tried to get Gracie to go with Niles so that way she and Maxwell could call each other Fran and Max in every room of the house. But he refuses because he needs to work and he needs Niles to help him. And so Fran and Gracie go, and then of course Maxwell feels bad about it, and he goes to bring them home, and he arrives just in time because it seems like the king of Khorasan is holding Fran and Gracie hostage. So he brings them
Ooh.
home safely. Um, and then the last piece of future fun, the song "Ain't No Mountain High Enough" features quite prominently in an episode in season 6 titled "Sarah's Parents," where we meet Maxwell's first wife's parents. And they do, shall we say, they do not approve of the state of Fran and Maxwell's relationship at that point, or what Fran and Maxwell want to do with the kids.
Mm.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's all
Okay.
I got.
Yeah. So now's the time to do the episode rating. As a reminder to our lovely listeners, we like to rate each episode from 1 to 5 lipsticks, one being the lowest, five being the highest. We like to always preface that by saying, like, this is, I mean, it's subject to change, it's very subjective, it's just for fun. Um, and feel free always to like let us know your thoughts as well in the episodes. But anyway, Debbie, I believe it's your turn to go
I
first.
know. I was just thinking that. I hate when it's my turn.
Mhm.
Despite some of the problematic elements of this episode, I think it's fun to watch. I think it's funny. Um, as an adult, all those innuendos that I wouldn't have picked up on as a kid, I get most of them, I think. Um, it's just funny to watch. It's amusing. Um, you can see how Maxwell sort of goes entirely off the rails because he's jealous. I like, I mean, I'm not going to say I like that Maxwell is jealous because that could be a very dangerous situation. Um, but I like that he recognizes that he does have feelings for Fran and he would be very upset if she were to find someone else, or to be intimate with someone else. And I just wish he would have stepped up to the plate and been honest with her and been like, yes, I'm jealous. Yes,
Mm.
I know I've been dragging my feet, but I want to build a life with you. I want him to do the things that he should do. Um, but still, I think it's funny. I think Chevy Chase is kind of a jerk to Maxwell, which is also kind of funny. I enjoy the Niles and Cece banter. I enjoy the. I find it amusing that Cece thinks he's there, for physical intimacy when he just wants his wallet. Um,
But to be fair, he's the one who planted that idea in his head in the first place, and they
correct,
got
correct. Um, yeah, so I rather like this episode because I think it's fun. Um, I kind of think I like this better than all of the other episodes we've seen thus far this season, but that's not really saying much.
it.
Um,
Mhm.
I I'm just trying to decide if I want to give it a 4 or 4.25. Um, I think I kind of like this better than the morning after, so I think I'm giving it 4.25. How about you, Bernadette?
Okay. I think um again there's some problematic elements. I didn't really think Chevy added too much to the episode itself. However, like you said, it was amusing to see. Like I think for me, um, the Niall Cece scene at towards the end kind of saved it a bit more.
Mhm.
Um, again, this season we haven't had much luck with her ratings. I think I'm gonna give it a 4.
Okay.
So yeah,
Still better than last week.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah, better than most of the things. Like you said, I mean, it's like you mentioned, it's like kind of fun to see Maxwell jealous, but as we've discussed before, fiction what's fun in fiction is not necessarily fun in real life, you know?
Correct.
So in a fictional sense, it's fun to see him go in and like get her uh because we also know as the audience that that's what she wants him to do, you
Mhm.
know? Um but But yeah, obviously, if that were happening in real life, ladies, or gentlemen, or non-binary friends, that's a red flag. If
Correct.
someone just barges in and puts you over their shoulder. Uh, so anyway, that's what I have. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Um, I guess we're ready to sign off.
Yep.
That's all we have for you today. We hope you had a fine time with us as we revisited the nanny. Join us next time when we'll be discussing episode 108, Mommy and My.
If you would like to reach us on social media, you can find us on Twitter at Nanny Revisited. You can also send us email at findtimenannyrevisited@gmail.com. Have a great week.